Hello everybody, it's Vinyl Rich here with Vinyl Finds video number 35. I'm sporting my Record Nerd t-shirt that I got from Myke C-Town's website, store page, whatever. I got two of them. I got the Record Nerd and I got the Record Nazi t-shirts for Father's Day. Before I get started showing my albums, I'd just like to say that when I first started watching videos, not quite 2 years ago, Myke C-Town was one of the first ones that I ever ran across. And it was him showing his vinyl collection. And it was letter A through Z. First one I ever saw of him was he was showing his A's. And he's pulling his albums out. And then he pulls out a copy of Annie. I go, yeah, this dude's for me, man. I mean, anybody that has that wide a range of musical taste, that's the type of dudes I like to watch. I mean, his new videos, his Vinyl Finds videos that I don't know half of the shit he's showing. I don't know what he's talking about. I mean, once in a while he'll show a Death Grips or something like that I'm familiar with. But most of this stuff, I don't know. I'm not into death metal and all that stuff. But he has these other videos that are, what you want to know? And those are fucking fantastic. In fact, he has this one, it's a story, tells a story when he's on tour with this punk band. It's sad, but it's hilarious, but sad. But anyways, I'm going to start showing my vinyl. First one here is, can you hear that? The neighbors woke up. No Pussyfootin' by Robert Fripp and Brian Eno. Came out in 1973. This is, Brian Eno and Robert Fripp experimenting in the studio. This is droning guitars with Eno's tape recording loops. The only sound source, I only listened to side one, and the only sound source on that is Robert Fripp's guitars. And what it is Brian Eno is treating the guitars with his tapes. And this album did not sound like anything else at the time. And they didn't take it too seriously. In fact, Brian Eno changed the name of the song on side one. It's called The Heavenly Music Corporation. And he changed the name because the original name, I don't remember what it was, but he thought, people would be taking it too serious. And what I kind of find amusing about that is how serious people take this ambient music now, But this is probably, I don't know, it's an early proto-ambient is what people call it, whatever. I haven't listened to side two, which is Swastika Girls. But side one I did like. I mean, I like Robert Fripp's guitar though, so. But it was a good album, and it's on the Editions EG. The second one I got here is their second collaboration of Robert Fripp and Brian Eno, Evening Star. Got a picture of them there. Again, I haven't listened to side two, although the name on side two, An Index of Metals, that sounds kind of promising. I will check it out. But the first song is Wind on Water, and it's that electronic soundscape where nothing really changes much throughout the song. I mean, not much. The second song is Evening Star, and guess what? It's an electronic soundscape, and nothing really changes too much throughout the song. The third one is Even Song. Guess what? And it's an electronic soundscape, and it doesn't really change much throughout. The fourth song is Wind on Wind, and this is music that Brian Eno recorded for Robert Fripp to play the background for him playing his guitar in concert. I don't believe it was ever used. This is a clip from those recordings, and Eno did finally release the whole recordings, and it was discrete music. I don't think I said, but this one came out in '75. It's definitely early ambient. Side one was okay. It's not really my thing. I'm not really into background music. When I put music on, I want to get engaged. And it doesn't all have to be in your face, but I don't know. I like well-written songs. It can be in different genres, but a lot of this ambient stuff, it's just manipulation of sound, and I mean, it just, I think it's a lack of songwriting a lot of times. I do respect Brian Eno, but what's weird is they weren't taking it that serious at this point, yet he based so much of his career on it. It's just kind of odd to me. And this again is on the Editions EG label. Now these next three albums are from two bands from, I believe they're both from Melbourne, Australia. Christian, whose channel is Siren05, he did a couple of videos on the Melbourne music scene. I rewatched those last night just to see if these bands were mentioned, and they weren't. They didn't make his cut. But anyways, I dig this album here. Seminole Rats. It's Omnipotent. Came out in 1986. This is what the back cover looks like. And you can see the Agogo. And it's on Mr. Spaceman. And it's a gatefold, really thin cover. It's kind of like that God album I bought from the Australian Agogo. Really thin. And it's just got pictures of the band here. But this is early punk sound. It's got that really rockin' late 70s, early 80s punk sound. Really, really good. The first song, Rat Race, is probably a 2-minute and 50-second song. But the first minute, the intro, takes about a minute. So some of these songs have really long intros, which is kind of unusual for punk. Really well written songs. The guitars are, I really like this album. This is their first EP, and I highly recommend it. And this is what the label looks like. Mr. Spaceman. This next one, I have two albums by this band. This is their first 12-inch album release. It's the name of the band is Haas. And the name of the album is Guzzle. Got pictures of the band here, and this again is on the Agogo label. I haven't heard this album yet, so I can't really comment. I'm sure I'm gonna like it. And I'll show the label, since you guys dig that kind of thing. And this is what the label looks like. Agogo. They're red labels. It didn't look too red there, but. And this album here is their second album, their second full-length album by Haas. You Get Nothing. This one's on Dog Meat Records, and I have played this one. I don't know why I played this one before the first album. I think it's because of the album cover. I think the album cover looks cool. And I really dug this album. I've played it, I think, 3 times. At least 3 times this week. It's how would you describe it? It's a good mixture of 70s rock, hard rock, and 90s punk, or what the hipsters call grunge. It's some songs have sax, kind of reminiscent of that second album by the Stooges, that real raw sounding sax. The drums actually sound a lot like early Mudhoney. But yeah, I dug this album all the way through. I don't know how well known these 2 bands are, Haas and Seminole Rats, but I'm glad to add them to my Australian, slowly growing Australian punk collection. And this is what the label looks like. Dog meat! Now, 2 videos ago, Flipside CT, he showed, at the end of it, he showed what he called were 2 essential records. What I got here are 3 essential records for me. First one is the Gun Club, the Las Vegas Story. For those that don't know, Gun Club were a early LA punk band. They did have, I don't remember what the original name was, but this guy here, Jeffrey Lee Pierce, he was roommates with Keith Morris of the Circle Jerks, and Keith Morris is the one that suggested him change the name. This is their 3rd album. Came out in '84, and it's got the original guitarist has returned, Kid Congo Powers, and it's also got Patricia Morrison here on bass, who later went to join Sisters of Mercy, and she also played with The Damned. But yeah, this is a really good swamp rock, bluesy, punky. I mean, I really dig the Gun Club. I don't have their first album. I do have Miami. This is my 2nd one that I have of them. So I have their 2nd and 3rd albums. But highly recommend. Highly recommend the Gun Club. This is the original sleeve. Can't really see it too well, but it's got the words and whatnot. The lyrics. His lyrics are usually pretty interesting. And it's on the original. This is the original first press on Animal Rights Records. It was later released on a major label, but I forget which one. Now the 2nd album, it's an essential, but I'd never really seen this album before. Didn't even know it existed, but man. Sympathetic Sounds of Detroit. I don't know if Dead Wax 66 is familiar with this album. Came out in 2000. It's a compilation. Fucking great shit here. It's garage with great guitars, fuzzed out guitars, heavy bass. There's some female singers, and it's all bands that were recorded at Jack White's home studio in Detroit. This album came out after the White Stripes' first album on Sympathy for the Record Industry. This is on Sympathy for the Record Industry. And it's got bands like the Paybacks, the Dirt Bombs, the Henchmen, Cole and the Knockouts, the Come-Ons. Sunday Drive by the Come-Ons. That's a Rough Dumps track right there, dude. I mean, it's got some funky bass. You got the Soledad Brothers, the Von Bondies, the Buzzards, the Detroit Cobras. Now I have heard them before. Bantam Rooster, the Clone Defects, Whirlwind Heat, White Stripes, and the Buzzards again. Really great comp. And this is what the labels look like. Sympathetic Sounds of Detroit. And this is what the B-side looks like. Same as that, the album cover. And it's got an insert with information about each band. And it's got this little thing here, which is pretty cool. I'm going to read part of it. There's a reason why music coming out of Detroit is so different from the rest of the country. Detroit's musicians don't suffer from the anxiety of not getting signed or not having a connection to get their music in a film. We know from the beginning that it's never going to happen. No suit from LA or New York is going to fly to Detroit to check out a band and hand out business cards. Fucking great. That's the attitude that the LA punk bands had too, by the way. They knew they weren't getting signed by any majors. The last one here, you hear people talk about grails, whatever that means. I guess this is one for me. It's the only album by this band that I did not have, that I know of. You Got It All, Dad. We're going to hit Sound of Impact. This is made to kind of look like an unofficial release, but it is an official release. And these right here are transcripts of the pilots and the control towers communicating each other, and each one ends with the Sound of Impact. So these are actual transcripts before a plane crash. And the label shows someone crunching over in their airplane seat. Now, who is this essential band? The Vinyl Rich is so highly excited about. It comes with this insert here. There's no mention of who the band is anywhere on the album cover. You don't know. This was sealed when I bought it, and it has the sticker here of $15.99, the original sticker. I paid $4 more than that, so I thought that's a pretty good deal. This is a pretty rare album. There was only 1,000 of these made originally, and I think the original ones were on a really rough. This has a texture, but I think the first ones were kind of almost like a fine sandpaper cover. They made 1,000 of those. Those sold out, and Steve Albini, he let them produce 500 more, and those were numbered, and this is number 135. Like I said, it's Big Black, one of my favorite bands from the 80s. I know I say that quite often, but these guys are definitely in my top 5. They were big precursor to industrial music. The lineup was 2 guitars, a bass player, and Roland, which was their drum machine. This is a live album. Great sound quality. This is a great album. Just like their Pig Pile, that's a live album of theirs. I think it was their last official release. This came out in '86, I didn't say before. Great sound. The Steve Albini, he made his guitar picks out of metal, and then he cut notches in them, and it had this industrial, what's now known as industrial sound. Really heavy sound. Nothing like it before. And the version of Jordan, Minnesota on this album is fucking heart-wrenching. It's Jordan, Minnesota. For those that don't know, I'm going to tell a little story here. Little town, I guess, in Minnesota, where there was a child molestation, sex scandal. It turns out the vast majority of this town was involved. I believe even the judges of this town, and I guess the judge decided not to prosecute because he said it would have been just too traumatic for the children to go through. And it's a disgusting story, and it's a heart-wrenching song that this guy does. And this version of it is just fucking maybe the best version of it I've ever heard. But yeah, this is a great album. I have all my Big Black now. I don't have their first two EPs. They did release an album called The Hammer Party, which side 1 was their first EP, Lungs. Side 2 was their second EP. I have that. I mean, if I ever run across Lungs, I'll pick it up in original. It's been reissued. I don't need to get a reissue. I have The Hammer Party. But now that I have this album, I think I will do a Big Black vinyl collection video. I know I'd been saying I was going to do a Bowie one. I have 2 Bowie albums that I can't find. I need to organize my collection, and when I do run across those, I will do my David Bowie. But I think I'm going to do Big Black or Black Flag will be my next one. Because I try to do an obscure or independent type band, and then a more commercial or well-known band, then go back to a lesser-known, a punk rock band or whatever. The last artist I did was Madonna. So my next one's going to either be Big Black or Black Flag. But anyways, that's it. I want to give a big thumbs up to Britain for bowing out of the EU. For those that don't know, they do want to do that here. There is a movement to make a North America union. I don't think a lot of people are aware of that. But the banks and the backers of Hillary Clinton, Ted Cruz, Jeb Bush, they all have an agenda to make a North American union. I don't know if people are aware of this or not, but this movement started in the 80s, and this was a big blow to them. And hopefully Bernie Sanders or Trump wins president, because that would be another big blow. So take care. I don't like to get into politics. I did vote for Bernie Sanders here in California. I am a registered Democrat, and it appears that he's not going to make it. But I'm a Bernie Sanders supporter that is going to vote for Trump. Hillary Clinton, it's going to just be more of the same. And more of the same is not good for the working class. I can tell you that right now. Sorry for the rant. Take care, guys and gals.